ఇక ఫైనాన్స్ కమిషన్ చైర్మన్ మీడియాతో మాట్లాడుతున్నారు. ఆ లైవ్ చూద్దాం.
Deferred our visit, given the fact that currently they are busy with the state level elections which are taking place. It is evident to us that there are some serious challenges, but some historic opportunities which Andhra Pradesh has. First and foremost, the opportunity of not being burdened by history or by legacy in creating a brand new capital at Amravati which could replicate the very best which exists anywhere in India and even compete with some of the better capitals of the world. This is a great advantage. No doubt during the transition there are the challenges not only of raising adequacy of resources but the challenge of completing them in a time frame which enables Andhra Pradesh to continue its onward march to be able to achieve high rates of economic growth and to further bring down the incidence of poverty as well as enhance its per capita income. This is one area where there is both a challenge and an opportunity. It has taken some very key steps in harnessing its water resources by the interlinking program in a manner which is credible, which has substantially enhanced the agricultural productivity of the state and enable Andhra as it makes its transition from a services-driven economy, having given up its services-driven dominance, to an economy which has a better contribution from much higher levels of agricultural productivity than is evident now. As is known, the Chief Minister, who has demonstrated remarkable leadership in adopting and embracing high technology, he is really poised himself to use the knowledge economy as the growth catalyst for the economy of Andhra, not only merely information technology in the broadest sense of the term, but keeping into account that this area itself is evolving into much higher value added along with moving towards the use of artificial intelligence and robotics in a significant way. The several initiatives undertaken for improved governance, enhancing life quality, which presentation by to us was characteristics of the leadership here and was extremely impressive. The Commission is committed that the contribution of Andhra to the national GDP and Andhra's leadership position, as well as the realization of Andhra's potential, is in no way stymied by state which has taken place. The Commission is committed to giving not only consideration but maximum power within its constitutional framework to the demands made by the Chief Minister and to try and enhance its resource base as significantly as possible to be able to make the kind of contribution that the leadership has in mind. We do believe that the current initiatives undertaken by the government of Andhra Pradesh are credible, timely, speedy, and we were impressed by the commitment of the leadership in fulfilling these commitments in a time-bound program. We recognize that for a prosperous India, we must have a prosperous Andhra Pradesh. We recognize that Andhra Pradesh can become and will become a leader in multiple ways to catapult India in the next stage and state of growth. And towards this aim and objective, this Commission stands committed to helping Andhra Pradesh achieve these ambitious objectives and targets. I think I want to stop here, but I'll be quite happy to respond to any questions which members of the print or electronic media may have. I request that you identify yourself, keep your questions and comments very brief, for enabling me or my colleagues to respond to any of them. Who would like to begin?
Sir, namaste. I am Prasanna, I News TV channel. The state government demands special status regularly. So many agitations going on in the state. What the commission recommended about special category status for future recommendation? Thank you.
Well, we did clarify, and I wish to clarify, a couple of facts about the special category status matter, since it has come up in a forceful way. First and foremost, the concept of special category status was not born out of any recommendation or any suggestion from finance commissions. The special category status concept was the outcome of a decision by the National Development Council when the famous Mukherjee-Gadgil formula was announced, and at a time when it was considered beneficial to give the special category status by the National Development Council for the state of Assam and the state of J&K. Subsequently, as Assam got further divided, the special category status was accorded to other sister states in the northeastern part of the country. During the tenure of former Prime Minister Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee, he announced the special category status to the states of Himachal and Uttarakhand. The implementation of the special category status was undertaken by the Planning Commission in conjunction with the Ministry of Finance. The special category status issue is not germane and has nothing to do with the terms of reference of the Finance Commission. Now, therefore, to the question of whether we will give consideration to this or not, the answer is a very simple one. This does not form part of the terms of reference of the 15th Finance Commission, and we would not like to cross the mandate as contained in the notification issued by the President of India. The remit of the Finance Commission does not include the consideration of the issue of special category status. Therefore, that's where the matter stands at the moment.
Excellent, sir.
Sir, but central government repeatedly said that because of 14th Finance Commission recommendation, we are not giving special category status. But you are saying
I do not wish to comment on why and how the central government did what they did. What is factually correct is that the 14th Finance Commission did in two sentences say that they were not in favor of categorization of states, and that they were really going to examine the fiscal condition of each state, and did not believe that this kind of a categorization was the most beneficial way forward. So it is not true that the 14th Finance Commission examined in depth the issue, the merits and analysis of special category status. They only stated the factual position, which is the position which is most appropriate, that as a Finance Commission, they looked into the fiscal position of each state and come to conclusions which they believed were appropriate in respect of those states whose fiscal position and finances were under examination.
Sir, this is DeMaere from AP24x7. Sir, what about this census? From starting only AP opposing the census regarding this 1971 and 2011. What you are considering?
So it's like this, that which census figures we will use in respect of population is not something on which the Commission has any latitude or freedom. The census figures which we are obliged to consider are the figures as given to us in the presidential notification, and as far as the 15th Finance Commission is concerned, the figure which has been given to us is to use the census figures of 2011. this is not a comment on the merits of that proposal, because the notification, we have nothing to do with the contents of the notification. The notification is issued by the President of India, and we are obliged, therefore, to respond to the notification. Having said this, let me say three other things. Let me say that in the 14th Finance Commission, they were obliged to consider the census figures of the 71 census, which they did, but with the following two changes. In looking at 27% weightage, which they gave to population, 17% weightage was given to the 1971 census, which the notification had asked them to do, and 10% weightage was given to the 2011 census. Now, they exercised the option of using not one census data, but two census data in a mix of 1710. So, whereas this Finance Commission has been asked to use the data of 2011, the issue of whether we will use a mix of census data or not is open to our consideration, and we will certainly consider that. Also, the issue is that we are not obliged to assign any particular weight to the population. A weightage of 27% was used to population by the previous Finance Commission. Finance Commissions have altered the weightage given to population. It has varied from the very high to the somewhat more modest one, and therefore it is up to us which kind of a weightage the Commission would like to assign to it. And finally, this Commission, there is a separate provision in the notification that we should look for incentivizing those states which have achieved higher levels of or better demographic management in terms of achieving the TFR rate much quicker, where clearly Andhra falls in that category. So it is the effort of the Commission to ensure the balance between not in any way penalizing performance and yet adhering to the Charter as contained in the terms of reference. It is not our intention to penalize efficiency. At the same time, it is certainly our intention to ensure that the needs of people of India, for which all resources are ultimately resources belonging to the people, and that's what the resources must be used for, are used as gainfully as possible. It will be the endeavor of the Commission to find an appropriate balance to this issue of what census data and use the flexibility available to us as innovatively and as imaginatively as possible.
Sir, here only. Sir, actually, I think you know the actual position, financial position of the Andhra Pradesh. Why? Because at the time of bifurcation bill passed, I think you are in the Rajya Sabha. So you are specially do you refer any financial, especially financial assistance to Andhra Pradesh, to the central government? You are recommend.
Well, I'm certainly very sympathetic to the needs and compulsions of Andhra Pradesh. And I did participate, that is true, in the discussions in the Rajya Sabha in which I spoke in favor of this reorganization bill, including the fact of the Andhra's demands on various scores and issues and the special category status. But we have taken note of the special challenges of Andhra Pradesh, and we will, of course, need to give this a serious consideration to arrive at conclusions which are sympathetic but within the framework of the limitations of the Commission and what the Constitution really enjoins upon us to do.
Sir, here Samaswara from France, India, English Daily. Sir, state government demanding to give 50% share on cess and the surcharges collected by the central government. At the same time, state government is demanding a constitutional amendment for this effect. Will you suggest the same? Are you getting same demand from other states? Can you explain?
Well, the issue of cess and surcharge forming part of the divisible pool is under the Commission's consideration. The specialized study or the expert study which the Commission, which we had commissioned from some legal firms and entities, that study report has been received by us a few days ago. The constitutional position is very clear that, strictly speaking, cesses and surcharges are really do not form part of the divisible pool, and that constitutional provision is unambiguous. Now, the broader issue on what manner and to what extent cesses and surcharges should or should not form, and whether there could be other ways in which there could be cap on the extent to which this can be kept out of the divisible pool, is a matter to which we will give further consideration to during our deliberations. Yes, it is true that, and not surprisingly so, that almost all state governments would like cess and surcharge to form part of the divisible pool, and there is nothing surprising in this.
Sir, here sir, I am from the Hindu here. I am from Hindu sir, Raghavendra. Sir, what is your view on the demand for establishment of steel plant, railways and so on in Andhra Pradesh, which have been very major issues for some time?
Well, these are not matters on which the Commission has any view. These are matters in which it is for the state government to try and see what they can do to hasten the industrialization and the manufacturing sector and the industrial sector of this newly created state, and to really balance between agriculture, services and industry. But that's not a matter on which the Commission has any views. Yes, we would like to support all initiatives of the government of Andhra Pradesh for a much faster and a more balanced economic growth.
Sir, here, sir.
Sir, one more. Can you quantify the assistance given by the previous commission, 14th Commission to Andhra Pradesh?
Quantify?
Yeah.
Well, that's all on the table. I'll really, Anthony, what was the amount that the 14th Finance Commission?
22,000 crores have been left.
No, just let Anthony say that.
So, sir, it's there in the 14 finance
No,
commission.
no, but say that now.
About 1,12,000 crore.
Arvind would like to say that.
The total pre-devolution deficit that was quantified was approximately about 1,12,000 crore, and it was met through horizontal devolution of share of taxes, and the balance of about 22,000 crore was met through a grant amount.
All right. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Sir, here, sir. Samaseva again. Sir, what is the definition of populist scheme under the terms and references given to 15th Finance Commission, and how will you look into this matter, since every welfare scheme is nothing but a populist scheme?
Well, if you discover that definition, do share it with us also. No, I think we would really like to go into the philosophy and the merits of that a little more closely, because what appears populist to one may appear economically beneficial to the other. We recognize this. At the same time, clearly, there are public outlays on which the returns are exceedingly low, and which clearly is use of the limited financial resources in a manner which does not really contribute to sustainable growth in any particular manner, but just enhances the consumption in a very short-term sense of the term. So we will have to look at the quality of the populist expenditure, quote unquote, before we come to any definite conclusion on that one.
Sir, what about Amravati and the main project Pollavaram? So what do you say regarding these two main projects? Mainly focusing AP government only on these two projects only, and first is Amravati and second one is Pollavaram. What do you?
Well, the state government projected their requirements of resources for completing their ambitious program for the new capital, and they have given a written memorandum in respect of what are the likely expenditures in respect of both these very important challenges. Those we have taken note of as a charge on Andhra Pradesh's expenditure, particularly for the period in the medium term, because as you know, the Commission's recommendation, as far as we are concerned, kicks in for the 5 fiscal years from 20 to 25. So while taking note of their likely expenditure pattern and their likely revenue trends, that's the core data which the Commission would like to analyze. That's it. Well, then I'll request my colleagues in case they wish to add anything. Shakti, you want to add anything? Anu, do you want to say anything? Want to say anything? Well, then let me thank you by saying that all of you, that thank you very much for coming to this press conference. We have had a very fruitful, very productive interaction with not only the government of Andhra Pradesh, but I must say that all political parties who came here today participated in the deliberation and interactions with great amount of fervor and with a great amount of prior preparation. And we must complement that widespread stakeholder consultations which we have had here. We look forward to our consultations with representatives of trade and industry, and of course with the third tier of government tomorrow before we complete our formal deliberations. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.